What's good? Half Blind back with another video, and today I'm going to be going over what we just got in the Madden 25 blog, and it's the first blog they've dropped, so I'm going to go through all the details of it. We got some really good stuff in there. Now, just so you guys know, I'm primarily going to be a College Football 25 channel, but I do play Madden as well, and I will be dropping some Madden videos also, and I have been, until we get College Football 25, playing some Madden, so if you guys want to see more content from me, please subscribe. And drop a comment and let me know what you guys think of this blog, what you think of the changes they have listed here, because I'm going to be honest, it sounds really good. Let's jump into it. So I'm going to skip a little bit ahead in the blog here because I think this is something a lot of people are going to want to know about. So as you can see here, a lot of sections mention PS5, Xbox Series S, X, and PC. That does to me imply that there is going to be Madden on last gen. But I will say, so many features in this blog are current gen, PS5, Series X, PC, all of that. So many of those features are current gen. I really think the current gen game is pretty much a must. I mean, you can still get, I'm not saying don't buy last gen's game, but I will say the experience I think is going to be completely different between the two. And it's been that way, but I think it's getting even more so that way, because a lot of the new features we're going to talk about are only on current gen. So if that's not something you've picked up, you should definitely consider it before Madden 25, because I really think that's going to be the best way to play the game. Alright, so the first announced feature that we're going to talk about here is the boom tech. Now there's different aspects of the boom tech. To generalize it though, what I've heard is this is not, and what I've read here in the blog, this is not a replacement for field sense. It clearly states that in the blog. Boom tech is going to be more based on physics-based tackling, and you'll see a little bit more of it later, but how it seems to me is that it is going to be more, let's say, it's going to be more accurate and more reward/penalty for hit sticks is how I feel about it. Now, if you look here, it specifies there's going to be a new data-driven physics system that considers things like timing, momentum, weight, speed change, strength, and player rating. This to me shows that the collision point is going to be the big focus here. So do you miss with the hit stick? Do you mistime it? Do you go too early, too late? Do you maybe only get one shoulder and maybe that makes it to where the ball carrier still breaks it or can still break through? That to me is how I read it. That's what I'm understanding from the boom tech that we're seeing here. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are on the boom tech, because I think it's going to be a big focus for Madden 25 next year, as it was when they put in field sense in 23. That's something that they like to really emphasize, is the new tech when they put it into a game like this. And so I'm curious what you guys think, because it's something this year we've had a lot of field sense stuff, specifically with the jukes and things like that, and with the passing. I'm curious if this is going to end up giving the defense a little bit more or less of an advantage. We'll have to see. My thoughts are, if you're good, I think this is going to add some skill gap, is my thoughts. If you're good with the hit stick, I think you're going to be really good with the boom tech. If you are maybe mid or less than good, then yeah, I don't think this is going to help you. I think this is probably going to hurt you, and you're going to want to focus more on just wrap tackles and things like that, unless you can really just get good with the hit stick. So a key word here that I see in field sense here on the ball carrier control is it mentions to counter the hit stick. So to me, what that means is they are trying to keep it balanced, which, I mean, yeah, obviously they're going to try to keep it balanced, but it sounds here like their balance system that they're trying to come up with is going to hopefully keep the ball carrier where if, say, you mistime a hit stick, you get through it. With the fact that Christian McCaffrey is the cover athlete, that's not surprising. A lot of people are like, yeah, that means this is going to be a run-heavy game. I wouldn't go that far. You never know. But I will say, if they have Christian McCaffrey as the cover, it does make me think maybe they focused a little bit more on the run game than past years. But who knows? That's just an assumption. Foundational football here, it looks like they're basically just saying that the field sense is going to be expanded, but they didn't go into a ton of details here. It reads like you're going to have to wait for the gameplay updates, and we definitely will be waiting for those. I think the gameplay updates are going to shed a lot more light on this, but they did mention that they made things a little more smarter and a little more adaptive for the ball carriers, so we'll have to see how that looks. So you see the NFL Immersion topic here. I'm going to skip down a little bit here, but one thing it mentions, a couple of things it mentions, is more updates to things like when you get drafted and your draft day experience and meeting Roger Goodell. It also talks about the fact that we have more commentary teams, which is actually something that people have been asking for a long time. Brandon Gaudin and Charles Davis will still be here, but we've got 2 new teams here, as you see. Mike Tirico and Greg Olson are one team, and then we've got Kate Scott and former NFL quarterback Brock Heward. So that is a nice feature, because I don't think that I'm saying Brandon Gaudin and Charles Davis did a bad job, because they absolutely didn't. But when you just have that one commentary team the whole time, it can kind of get a little stale where you need a change of pace, basically. I mean, it's like watching your favorite NFL team that has the same commentary team, but you're now watching it back to back to back, and you kind of get tired of the same voice. It's nice to have it change up. It's good that they added those options, in my opinion. That's a really big plus for me. Now back up to the franchise mode here. This is where I mentioned you meet Roger Goodell. You have more draft, let's say draft presentation to the mode, which is cool. And that, I wonder if also will go into your solo campaign as well. I assume it will. They mentioned dynamic storylines here. They simplified the league creation. They said they tweaked their AI here for free agency and some other logic, including progressions. Also, a thing to notice here, or to note here, I should say, is that they did add female coach models and to create a coach, which is great because we do have women in the coaching staffs on the NFL, so more immersion like that and being able to play true to life is always a plus in my opinion. Now to me here, this last note is a big one, and that is that it will have crossplay on online franchise. I think that's a huge thing that they're adding. Now they said that it was something that they tested and they got working well on the beta in 24, so it's not surprising that we see it here. But one thing I want to mention that I don't think has really been mentioned yet is that, to me, this makes me wonder if that's maybe how they do college football. Now, obviously, that's just speculation. Who knows? But maybe that's how they do college football. A lot of people were upset about no crossplay and online franchise. Maybe they beta that this year at some point, and that's probably going to depend on their development cycles and all kinds of things like that. But maybe that's something they beta setting up for the next year in college football 26. Maybe that's the plan, maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm not in with the devs. I don't know what their schedule is, anything like that. Just a thought based on how they did it with Madden. Maybe they're looking at a similar strategy, but they're different teams, so maybe not. Just a theory. And one more thing on the franchise is the team builder. Now, this is very similar from the sounds of it of what you have in the team builder in college football 25. So I did a video on all of that. Go back and watch those if you want to. But basically, to sum it up, is like create a team only in Madden. You're going to be able to use it in online modes, whereas in college football 25, you weren't really able to do that, and that is generally believed to be because of licensing. Now, here in the presentation overview, a couple keynotes here is that they did say they sourced a lot more audio from actual NFL films in 2023 Monday Night Football games. So hey, if you went to one of those Monday Night Football games, you might actually be in the game. But on top of that, they also mentioned some changes to Superstar and Ultimate Team presentation. And finally, they do mention there will be a new score bug at the bottom of the screen. Live game mode section, basically just saying what we already said about franchise being crossplay and the fact that crossplay is helping that out. Now here in Superstar, the only things that I really want to focus on here more is they mention here dominate the league, show off, showdown, and collect rewards in your year-round live events and dynamic seasonal experiences. Also, I want to point out here it mentions there's a new quest system. And then lastly on Superstar, as you've seen in previous videos and as you've seen if you're a fan of any of the college football stuff coming out, you're going to be able to take your Road to Glory player from college football 25 to Madden 25. Just you cannot take your draft classes from college football 25 to Madden 25. That's already been stated. Ultimate Team. So in my opinion, this is where some of the biggest changes are. I know some people are going to like it, some people are not going to like it, because I know a lot of people are 50-50 on the, or really just have, I shouldn't say 50-50. A lot of people have strong opinions on the Ultimate Team game mode. Personally, I play it, I like it. You've seen some of my content on the channel is geared around it. So for me, these are really big and good changes. Let me know on your opinions though. I'm curious because I'm thinking next year I may start up a franchise, I may start up a superstar. We'll see. I'm curious if you guys would want to see content around that, if you like content around that, because those modes do sound fun to me. But I've always been primarily Ultimate Team focused, and I probably will continue to do some of that next year into Madden. That's just where I've liked stuff. Now, some of the big things that they've changed here. They've added a new ranked head-to-head mode, which sounds like basically you are going to progress up and down divisions based on your wins and almost kind of a point system. And it sounds like the competition is obviously going to get better, like it was in head-to-head seasons where you get into the higher divisions and there's better competition. It sounds like now it's going to be more of a points-based system and also more of a rewards-based system too, where it sounds like the higher you get, it's going to be higher rewards. Yes, that was the case in head-to-head seasons this year, but if you get to the top 100 in this year, I mean, I'm just reading between the lines, but it sounds like your rewards are going to be pretty good and pretty fitting for being in the top 100. Let's hope that's true. Now, for me personally, I am mostly an offline player. I will play online, and I've been playing more online lately, but I do play a lot offline, and the fact that they have solo seasons here now with increasing difficulty as you go through the seasons, playoffs, Super Bowl, things like that, I think that is a really cool touch for it. I think that sounds more interesting to me than solo battles. So for me, I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays. So they mentioned here 6-on-6 live events. To me, that is really cool as well. 6-on-6 live events, I think is going to be a really interesting tweak. Now it mentions live events, so I think it's probably not going to be, I mean, obviously doesn't sound like it's going to be a mode that just sticks around. I'd almost like to see that as a mode that just sticks around, but the fact that there's even events that have 6-on-6, I think that's going to be really cool, because obviously 6-on-6, you're going to have way more room in the field, and it's going to be a way different feeling experience. Me coming from playing a lot of 2K, I can tell you that they have two different game modes. They have the 5v5 and they have the 3v3. And it doesn't sound like removing 2 players would make that much of a change. All that spacing out there feels way different when you have 3 players as opposed to 5. Those -2 players, for whatever reason, just makes it feel way more spacious, and it feels like just more of a freestyle experience, and I'm looking forward to that in Ultimate Team. Lastly, they mention a few tweaks to matchmaking. It's going to be kind of hard to know anything about matchmaking until we actually get in there, but it's kind of interesting to me that it sounds like they took some feedback and that it's going to be a little bit tweaked to fit the match styles people like better. I don't know what that means, and I'm curious to see what it means and how it plays out, but that's one of those things I think we're just going to have to get our hands on the game just to see it. Alright, and I mentioned and more earlier. This is the and more. I wanted to talk about some of these tweets from some of the guys out there who have played it and their thoughts that they were able to share. Now this is from Civ. If you guys haven't seen him, go follow him out on Twitter, out on YouTube, any of that stuff. I'll try to put some links in the description, but this is a really good breakdown of some things that he noticed. And so you know, if you don't know who Civ is, he can really break down gameplay. He can really break down playbooks. He's one of those guys that can just kind of figure out everything in terms of how to be in a meta, how to just create a meta in general. So Civ, when it comes to gameplay, is definitely somebody that I would trust in things that they're saying, and obviously EA trusted him too because they brought him out to go see the game early. Now, one here, he mentions EA rewarding people from well-timed hit 6 and punishing them from badly timed hit 6. That goes a lot with the blog that we read, so that makes sense. He mentions that this shares some features with College Football 25, but it does not feel the same, which is something that a lot of people have been saying is like, oh, College Football 25 is just going to be reskinned Madden. Well, guess what? Civs play both. And so if he says they don't feel the same, they probably don't feel the same. Now, number 3, they mentioned nerf juke move and more skill gap in terms of ball carrier movements. that is a plus. If you've played this year's game at all, you'll know that the juke is the move, and everybody is just flat out just running the juke. That's all they do. And it's, you know, you get good at hitting it, sure. Like you can just time up your hit on the juke, but it's something that a lot of people have just spammed to the point of just being annoying, really. And I do it too, honestly. I mean, you gotta use the most powerful move. Juke is that. It sounds like it won't be that in 25. Number 4, custom stims. So as we talked about in college football, this sounds similar to me, and maybe I'm misreading it, but it sounds like something that you'd be able to adjust in terms of you can adjust the length of your stem. So say you have an out and you're running at 5 yards, you can maybe set it up at 8, and maybe set it up at 15, and you'll be able to change those lengths pre-snap. Number 5, he mentions motion snapping feels way better and way more authentic, and the fact that you can go back and forth a lot easier. That's good because when you think about just general immersion into NFL, that's something a lot of teams run. A lot of teams run motion and different kinds of complicated motions. The fact that they've improved that is a good thing in my opinion. Now I mentioned here, Civ is big with the playbooks, big with learning the big plays. He's great if you want to see route trees, things like that, route combinations. Civ is great with that kind of stuff, and so he said that he didn't get the deep dive into the playbooks, but there are new plays and new playbooks to check out, so that will be interesting to see when Madden 25 comes around. And again, the reason why I was saying I would follow him is because that kind of stuff, he's going to have a lot of good info on it. Number 7, he talked about what we talked about in the blog, which is the new MUT mode for the top 100, and the fact that that sounds really cool, but he didn't really get to play with it much, so we'll still have to see on that one. 3 commentary teams, we already touched on that one. He mentions here a revamped blocking system where you can see where your blockers are, who your blockers are going to pick up, and who they're maybe would be getting in the blitz metas and things like that. That'll be interesting for me to see. I'm curious if that's just an always on thing, if that's ability based. I wonder how that works. If it's an always on thing, I definitely think that could be a really cool feature to be able to set up your own blocking schemes ahead of time, or at least see what your blocking scheme looks like. And number 10, we already discussed Team Builder. Another creator I want to mention here is Mills. He has done a great job for the offline community in general in all sports games, and a creator I've really kind of found recently but really like, and I know he's been doing this for a long time, so the fact that I just found him recently is kind of crazy, but I've been mostly buried in the 2K scene, so getting in, seeing what he's doing in the show, what he's doing out there in Madden, and just a lot of different games, and seeing that he's pushing for more offline options for people, which to me is something that's near and dear to my heart. He said they are listening and they want to do more for you, and he said it's our voices he's hearing, which I really do believe that Mills is passing on things that we say to them. He just has a little bit more of a close connection, and that's what he's saying here. But the fact that he's hearing that they want to do more for us, and the fact that they did things like in Ultimate Team, they did the solo seasons and things like that, I do think that's true. Hopefully that's true in Madden 25. And I mentioned Mills earlier. He is one of the ones who did get to go test this in Orlando, and he answered a few questions with what he can right now. Now he clarified his top comment a little bit here. Basically he's just saying that on CPU players, the speed, strength, acceleration, things like that are no longer boosted on CPU players. As one of the posters in here mentioned, I didn't really notice it, but he did say it's something that's become more subtle. That actually sounds kind of good to me because, you know, boosted in general for the CPU doesn't sound great in my opinion. So hopefully that's the case, because that does sound like a nice change. Okay, so the question here is, if you hold R2 behind the line of scrimmage, basically sprint behind the line of scrimmage as the ball carrier, do the defensive line and other players shed blocks more quickly like they do in 24? Do they also do that in 25? And Mills said yes to this one. And Mills mentions here that the revamped passing system, which it doesn't sound like it's a full revamp from the blog we just read, but it sounds like that is actually not going to be the college system. So if you've seen the college videos, college has a different throw meter. It doesn't sound like that's the case, but he does say that it is different here. And I'm sure he can't go into any more details than that, but it's interesting to know that it is not the college system they're talking about. So I was asked if the RPOs are similar to how they're changing it in NCAA. which college football, not NCAA, but still, I know a lot of people are going to call it that forever. And Mills mentions here that the defender doesn't automatically crash on the run, so it's defended differently. So that's going to be something important to watch because RPOs have been a lot of meta throughout the year. So it'll be interesting to see if that helps it in defending against some of those meta RPOs or not. As you can see here in this question, he also kind of confirmed what Civ said too, that it sounds like the juke is nerfed, but at the same point in time that there will be more of a skill gap here. So that's kind of a good thing to see in my opinion. Another thing he mentions here is that the hot routes have been a little revamped, and it says it can be done by all quarterbacks. I'm curious if that's going to mean for Mutt too, and he probably, I'm guessing, had limited access as well, so he may not fully know that, or maybe he does. Go out there and ask him in the thread if you want to, because that's what he's doing. He's answering questions. Again, I'll have his stuff linked down in the description, but that would be interesting if you don't need Master Tactician or anything like that to get additional routes. And if it's just there, that would be nice, because I know a lot of people have said that's kind of annoying to them to have to put that on their quarterback. So we'll see if that's done. I know in college football, it's done by default that you have that. Now, another one from Civ that I actually missed the first time is he does mention here that the things that are going to be in College Football 25 and Madden 25, it mentions the switch stick here. So to me, that was an awesome addition for College 25. I'm happy to see that it's going to be in Madden as well. If you guys didn't know what the switch stick was, it's basically before the ball is thrown, you'll have your defender. You can switch by holding circle or B, and you can hold it in the direction you want to switch it to prior to the ball being thrown. Now, once the ball is thrown, it goes back to normal switch mechanics, or once the runner crosses the line of scrimmage as well, it goes back to normal switch mechanics. But I do think that's going to add a little bit of skill gap in user selecting while you're out there playing. It's going to be interesting to see how that changes things. Again, he goes back to the way that, and we mentioned this in his first post, but it mentions here that the blitz pickups are going to be different, and seeing who you can block is different. So that's good if we can pick up some of those meta blocks. I always hated in Madden in general, and probably will in college football too, when somebody would come up with like a cheese blitz where it would send somebody straight through the A gap, and that would always annoy me. That seems like they've made that better in past years, because I remember playing older Madden games where, man, you would snap the ball and somebody would be on you if you just didn't know what you're doing. Back then, I really didn't. I've gotten better, but if you didn't know how to adjust your protection, then at that point you would just, there's no way to play the game. It just wasn't fun, and that's been better this year. Like, I haven't seen near as much of that. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't play it all year because I was mostly on 2K earlier in the year, but from the time I've been on the game, I haven't seen a lot of these meta blitzes, other than, I remember Spinner earlier in the year causing a lot of problems, but other than that, I haven't seen any crazy blitzes that are just no time to throw or no somewhat easy way of beating them. So to me, that's good that they're focusing more in this area. And finally here we have custom stems, and we talked about that earlier, but that is in college football and in Madden. Custom stems I think are going to be really interesting, especially talking about watching somebody like Civ who does go through and make a lot of those route combinations and shows off a lot of good route combinations out there. The fact that you can adjust your stems, in my opinion, is going to make some of those route combinations even more effective. And it's going to be a little bit more of, I don't want to call it a skill gap, but maybe like an education gap between the best and the casual players, where you have people out there actually going out there and adjusting their stems, making flood concept routes, and you have other people who are just out there, you know, picking whatever Coach Madden suggests. You're probably going to have more of a skill gap there when you learn things like the custom stems. And that's all we've got so far. So for me, I'm picking up the MVP bundle, trying to decide system still. I think I'm 90% over on Xbox is what I'm going to do. But I still got a piece of me that wants to do PS5. We'll see. I don't know. I'm thinking Xbox though. Let me know if you guys are planning on picking this up. If you're still waiting to see some gameplay, let me know what system you're getting it on as well, so we'll know if we're even on the same system or not. But I really appreciate you guys watching. Peace.